I'm going to discuss the digestive tract of the horse. First, we start at the mouth. We start with the teeth, tongue, and the lips. The teeth are used for mastication of the food, and saliva is secreted. There's no enzyme activity in the saliva, but it helps to moisten the food and move it along. So next, the horse will swallow, and the food will move down the esophagus and into the stomach. Protein digestion is started in the stomach. The stomach will mix the saliva, gastric juices, and feed as the stomach empties, and it will move into the small intestine, which is made up of the duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. Fat, protein, and carbohydrate digestion and absorption happens here. Behind the small intestine, there are the pancreas and the liver, which are two accessory glands. The pancreas has two major functions, which is the endocrine system, which secretes insulin and glucagon, and exocrine, which releases HCl, amylase, and lipase. The liver is responsible for all metabolic function. The enzymes are secreted into the duodenum and the secretion is constant. The stomach and the small intestine make up for 55% of the digestion. Moving into the large intestine is made up of three parts, which is the cecum, large colon, and small colon. This is the main site of fiber digestion and water absorption. So then you move into the cecum, which acts as a fermentation vat, and then to the large colon, which is made up of a few different sections. The right ventral colon, the sternal flexure, left ventral colon, pelvic flexure, left dorsal colon, diaphragmatic flexure, and right dorsal colon. The small colon and rectum is responsible for absorption of water and it forms fecal balls. The rectum connects the small colon to the anus, and this is storage for feces. So the front half would be considered the foregut, and then the hind part would be considered the hindgut. And those are the parts of the horse.
Alright, so I'm going to go over how each nutrients are digested in the digestive tract. So first I will start with fiber, which they get from eating hay. And it starts in the esophagus, just gets passed through there. Then it goes into the stomach, where there's no digestion or anything. Keeps going to the small intestine, and there's still no digestion. And then it goes into the large intestine, where here bacteria act on it, and then change it into volatile fatty acids, and then it is sent out into the body. So that's how fiber is digested. And then sugars, which they get from eating grain or something like that, it passes through the esophagus. There isn't any digestion in the stomach. And then it goes into the small intestine, where different enzymes work on it and then break it down into different forms of carbohydrates or different types of sugars. And then they are then transported through the portal vein and they go into the liver, which is there, and then transported out into the body to the tissues. There is no digestion in the large intestine unless, if like for some reason you overfeed grain, then they will just be, microbes will activate and will change into VFAs like fiber does. So that's how carbohydrates are digested. Now it's going to get a little bit more complicated, so then we'll talk about how fats. So they have kind of like three phases. They have the mechanical disruption, enzymatic digestion, and then the conversion of like water and insoluble products into a soluble form of absorption. So the mechanical digestion would be obviously them eating the fats when they go down into the esophagus, into the stomach. This is where enzymatic starts with gastric lipase, which is an enzyme that works on it, and then it moves into the small intestine, where bile from the liver and lipase from the pancreas act on it as well, so the more enzymes are acting on it, so that's part of the enzymatic digestion. And then they form a micelle, which is kind of like a container of like all their stuff, and then that moves into an enterocyte, and then it is packaged into chylomicrons, which are absorbed into the lymph symptom. And that's kind of the conversion of like the water and insoluble products into a soluble form for absorption so that it can be absorbed into the horse's system. Or fats that aren't digested in the small intestine move to the large intestine and they pass into the hindgut where there's really not much absorption. It's basically just like excess fat kind of deal. So then protein digestion is the last one. This one's kind of the most complicated. So it passes through the esophagus again into the stomach, where it has enzymes act on it again, which is HCl, which then turns into pepsin. And it kind of leaves the stomach as a mix of different types of proteins. Then moves into the small intestine, where enterokinase, which activates trypsin, which then activates other enzymes that break it down into amino acids. And then those are then transported from the enterocyte into the portal vein, into the liver, and which is then transported into the tissue. And then if there's excess protein, it'll go onto the large intestine, and the microbes will digest the protein in the large intestine if it's fed extra protein. So most grain protein is digested and absorbed in the small intestine, and most hay protein is digested and absorbed in the large intestine.
Okay, today I'm going to discuss the 3 diseases that are mostly seen through the horse or equine digestive tract. The first one would be gastric ulcers. This is something that occurs mostly in the stomach. The symptoms of this would be poor appetite, the reluctance to train, a decreased performance, and a poor body condition score on the horse. Some of the risk factors for this disease would be high concentrate diets, limiting their grazing and their turnout, stall confinement, intense exercise, along with different types of stress. So what occurs is while the stomach is digesting food or feed, HCl is being secreted constantly and into a low acidic environment with no bicarb from saliva. So with the high acidity with grain, lactic acid and BFA production kind of messes with all that. Some treatments that would be beneficial for gastric ulcers would be trying to increase their pH using some sort of cimetidine or ranitidine, or the most common one would be omeprazole, which is GastriGuard. And then some prevention you can use would be altering their environment, such as increasing their alfalfa, feeding them more frequently, feeding less concentrates, as well as Ulcerguard and some herbal supplements such as aloe vera or silver elm bark. The next one we'll discuss would be colic, which isn't technically a disease, but is considered more abdominal pain. There are 3 types of colic: spasmodic, gas, paction, and twisted or displacement. And this occurs usually in our large intestine. Some symptoms of this would be relentlessness, pawing at the ground, looking at their flank or their belly, as well as lying down and getting up frequently, rolling. And as the colic gets worse, the symptoms will get worse. The cause of this would be sudden changes in feed, as well as feeding moldy feed, changing their eating habits, lack of clean water, as well as lack of a long-stem forage diet. Some ways you can treat this would be more medical management, so giving them fluids or pain-relieving drugs. And the worst-case scenario would be surgery, which is only usually used for displacement and twist colic. What occurs usually is, or why this happens, is the horse is unable to vomit, so therefore their stomach will start twisting or becoming upset, as well as there could be changes in diameter in their GI tract or digestive tract, which usually occurs, like I said, with its small or large intestine. Some ways you can prevent this from happening would be providing clean water at all times, feeding on a regular schedule, not feeding any moldy hay or grain, as well as providing an adequate amounts of hay or forage. Do not feed them immediately. Also, do not feed them immediately after strenuously exercising them. The last disease we'll discuss would be equine metabolic syndrome, or EMS. This is an endocrine and metabolic disease, so you'll see that mostly with your liver as well as other functions in there. So the 3 main characteristics of this disease would be obesity, being insulin resistance, as well as laminitis. So some symptoms you'll see: the horse will not lose any weight on diet or exercise. They'll have chronic laminitis in their feet, as well as the accumulation of fat in their neck, their withers, their tail head, and shoulder. Some of the causes are really unknown. We just have some theories, such as just when they accumulate abdominal fat is when it'll mostly occur, so any fat that will be building up down here, as well as the age and some diet differences that will occur. Some treatment that you can use, well, mostly our management techniques, would be to reduce body fat, so basic diet and exercise, avoiding sugary and starchy feeds, so not too much grains in the diet if you're not working them as much, and as well as working them a good amount every day to help reduce any sort of exercise or reduce any sort of issues. So these are the three main diseases seen in the horse GI tract.